My mother called me on a Thursday morning, and by the time she ended the call, I already knew my son had just made the biggest mistake of his life. I'm Luke Bennett. I fix things for a living, not in a literal way, though I've patched more drywall than I can count. I mean, I'm the guy people call when something breaks that no wrench can fix. Bad choices, worse outcomes. I've been doing it so long that it stopped feeling like a skill and started feeling like a burden. And standing in my kitchen in Cedar Falls, Iowa, coffee sitting cold on the counter, I felt that familiar electric tension in my chest, the one that tells me something is already broken and nobody has admitted it yet. Welcome back to Dad's True Revenge. Grab your snacks, get comfortable, and remember, the people in these stories always had chances to behave. They just didn't take them. Drop a comment and subscribe. You're going to like it here. It was just after 9 a.m. on a Thursday when my mother, Dorothy Bennett, 81 years old, still using a landline on Burwood Lane in Davenport, called me without warning. No greeting, no talk about weather or anything small. Just my name, said carefully, like she was checking if the ground was safe. Luke. Hey Mom, I said, turning off the burner. What's going on? Did Nathan's graduation party already happen? I set my mug down slowly. Nathan, my grandson, Christian, and Olivia's son, had just finished his first year at Drake University in Des Moines. Olivia had been planning for months to throw him a party at their place in Ankeny. Big deck, nice neighborhood, the kind of house they mentioned a little too often in conversations. I thought I would get a call. I thought Dorothy would too. She's his great-grandmother. She taught him gin rummy. She once chased a raccoon off his bike with a broom and didn't spill her sweet tea once. She had earned her invitation. Yeah, I said slowly. I think it was last Saturday. Why? They didn't call you? She asked. I called Christian, she said. Just to ask. He went quiet. Then Olivia got on. She laughed and said, Oh, Mrs. Bennett, that party was last Saturday. Something cold moved through me. Not anger yet. Something sharper. Recognition. That laugh. I didn't know it then, but it would become the most expensive sound Olivia Davis Bailey ever made. I called Christian before I even hung up with Dorothy. He answered too quickly, the kind of quickness that never means good news. Why wasn't your grandmother at Nathan's party? I asked. Silence. The kind of silence where someone is calculating their answer. Dad, it was just Nathan's friends, college people. It wasn't really a family thing. She's 81 and lives 20 minutes away. I know, but then I heard it. Olivia's voice in the background. Not clear words, just tone. Low, sharp, directing him. My neck tightened instantly. We'll come by, Christian said after a pause. Next week. We'll explain in person. Christian, next week, Dad, please. He hung up. I stood there with cold coffee and a growing suspicion that this wasn't about a party at all. I called Dorothy back. They're coming next week, I said. They want to explain in person. A pause, long enough to feel intentional. Shirley Greer was at that party, she said. Shirley from First Methodist? She goes to Olivia's Pilates class now, my mother replied dryly. She told me Shirley had called her Sunday, talking about a lovely event. She mentioned meeting a young woman, very polished, very professional. A lawyer. That detail made my stomach tighten. A lawyer. At a family party. They all went inside for about an hour, Dorothy continued. When they came back out, Christian looked like he'd been given bad news. Olivia looked like she'd been given very good news. I didn't speak for a moment. Mom, I said carefully, you know what I have to ask. Yes, she replied. Are they going after the house? The trust? The Bennett Trust wasn't something people talked about openly. It had been built by my father, piece by piece. Land, savings, and quiet wealth that comes from decades of work without showing off. 11 acres outside Davenport. Accounts people wouldn't expect. Nothing flashy, but solid, permanent. Dorothy had lived there for 52 years. The house, the land, everything, assumed, untouched, until someone decided to stop assuming. Luke, she said, how long have you known Olivia? Long enough, I said, then you already know. And I did. I just hadn't wanted to admit it. Olivia had always been polished, careful, the kind of person who said the right thing at the right time, but there was something underneath it, something watchful, not warmth, strategy. I had ignored it. I told myself I was overthinking. I had been wrong. I'm going to make some calls, I said. I already did, she replied. That stopped me. You did? Yes. How did you even know to call me? There was the faintest pause. How do you think? She said quietly. Thursday morning, Luke. And she hung up. I stood there for a long time. Then I picked up my phone, scrolled to a number I hadn't used in years, and typed, call me, urgent. 7 days passed after that. 7 days of silence. Christian finally sent one message. Still coming Thursday, Dad. Just a period at the end. No emotion, no softness, like he'd been coached, and I knew they had been. That week, I didn't argue or react. I moved quietly. I made calls. I listened more than I spoke. On Monday, I drove to Davenport and sat at Dorothy's kitchen table on Burwood Lane. She told me everything. The morning after Shirley's call, she had gone downtown alone, walked into an estate attorney's office. Emily Johnson, someone she already knew from a previous case, Dorothy kept everything, receipts, papers, even things most people would throw away, including contact cards. I told her what happened, Dorothy said, stirring her coffee like she was discussing something ordinary. She asked questions. I answered them. And then? She made calls. What kind of calls? Dorothy set her cup down carefully. The kind that confirmed Christian and Olivia hired a lawyer, she said. A Daniel Puett. He's trying to challenge my mental competency. The room went still. Mental competency. As if she was suddenly incapable of thinking for herself. I rubbed my forehead slowly. Mom, that's serious. Yes, she said calmly. Emily explained that too. She also explained what I need to do so it doesn't go anywhere. I looked at her. She wasn't scared, not even upset, just prepared. Thursday came like a storm that had already been announced, but still hit hard when it arrived. Christian and Olivia pulled into my driveway at 2:14 p.m. in a white Audi. Of course it was an Audi. I watched them from the kitchen window before I opened the door. Christian stepped out first. He looked tired, like a man who'd been pulled between arguments for days. Olivia stepped out after him, composed, calm, wearing that same controlled smile I had learned not to trust. Now I finally understood what it meant. It wasn't kindness. It was intent. I opened the door before they knocked. Dad. Christian hugged me immediately. It was real. That much I could tell. Whatever influence was on him, he still hadn't fully shut me out. Come in, I said. I made coffee. Olivia stepped inside and kissed my cheek. Luke, thank you for being patient, she said softly. We really wanted to explain everything in person. Of course, I said, keeping my voice steady. I also want you to understand, Dorothy said, her voice still calm in a way that felt almost irritating, that I've made changes to my estate papers. Everything has been arranged differently now. Emily helped me a lot with it. She lifted her glass of sweet tea like nothing important was being discussed at all. The Birchwood Lane house, the trust your grandfather set up, the bank accounts, everything has been reorganized in a way that Emily says is completely secure and airtight. Not at, Christian began. Olivia, Grandma, Olivia tried to speak at the same time. I'm not done, sweetheart, Dorothy said gently, cutting through them without raising her voice. She placed her glass back on the table with slow care. There is something else I want to add, and I say this with love because I truly do love this family. I have been checked by Dr. Patricia Howe at Davenport Medical Center on River Drive. Full mental evaluation, memory, thinking, decision-making, everything. She tilted her head a little as if she were discussing the weather. I passed with what Dr. Howe called remarkable clarity for someone my age, especially at 81. Emily already has the full report. It's been included with my estate documents. The small crack that had been forming in Olivia's face didn't just appear anymore. It spread. Just enough to be noticeable. Just enough to matter. Dorothy, Olivia started, her voice tighter now. Olivia, Dorothy said again, still calm. Her voice didn't sharpen. It didn't need to. It simply settled, heavy and steady, like a stone dropping into still water. I know about Daniel Puett. The room went completely silent. I know about the meeting at Nathan's party, she continued. Still no sound. I know what was inside that leather folder. Nathan slowly turned his head toward his mother, the way someone reacts when they think they may have misheard something important. What leather folder? He asked. Nobody answered him. What meeting? His voice changed slightly. The easy, relaxed tone of a college student was gone now. Something more serious, more grown, slipped in underneath it. What are you talking about, Grandma D? Dorothy looked at him with deep affection in her eyes, the kind that was simple and real. Ask your parents, baby, she said softly. I think it's time. What happened next wasn't something I can fully lay out in detail, because parts of it belong only to Christian and his son, and to the difficult process of telling the truth inside a family. Some things, once spoken, change everything in a room, and those moments don't need decoration. What I can say is this: Nathan Rivera Bailey was not the careless, unaware boy he had seemed like during dinner. He was 20 years old, and he had noticed more than people realized. He had seen the lawyer he didn't recognize. He had noticed the closed-door conversation happening during his own graduation celebration. He had felt the tension in his mother that day, tight and controlled like a wire pulled too far. He had stored it away quietly in his mind. Young people do that more than adults like to admit. And when the truth finally came out, when Christian, pale and looking worn down, explained what they had tried to do, Nathan didn't shout. He didn't throw anything. He didn't create chaos. He just looked at his mother with a face I recognized too well, because I had worn it myself at that kitchen table a few days earlier. That expression that says everything you believed is now being rebuilt from the ground up. You used my graduation, he said quietly. Olivia tried to respond. Nathan, we were trying to protect. You used my graduation, he repeated, the same calm tone, like he needed to confirm the words were real and not just something floating in the air. She didn't have an answer for that. By around 6:30 in the evening, Christian and Olivia were gone. Nathan stayed. He sat at the kitchen table with Dorothy, while I stood at the sink washing dishes, doing what I've always done at Sunday dinners for decades, without thinking about it. And I listened. Real conversation started then. The kind that only happens after everything fake has been cleared away. "I'm sorry they did that to you, Grandma D," he said. "Don't apologize for choices other people made," she replied softly. "That's a burden you don't need to carry." Then she looked at him closely. "Are you all right, Nathan?" There was a pause before he answered, and I heard her gently pat his hand. "I'm 81 years old," she said. "I've survived much worse than this. Losing your grandfather, 3 economic downturns, a roof collapsing during the winter of 1987. This?" She gave a small shrug. "This is just an inconvenience." He let out a short laugh, surprised by it. "An inconvenience?" "A manageable one," she added. Another pause followed. "And I have good people around me. Emily is sharp, and your grandfather Luke, despite everything, always kept himself together." "Despite everything?" I called from the sink. "You wanted to flip the table at Thursday's meeting, and we both know it, Luke." Nathan laughed again, properly this time. It was a real laugh, not forced or polite. I won't deny it. I didn't actually flip any table, but I also won't pretend I wasn't close to it. I left the house and walked out to my truck around 7:15 p.m. Nathan came outside with me, hands in his hoodie pockets. The cold air of Davenport made his breath visible in small white clouds. "Grandpa Luke," he said. "Yeah? This is real?" "It's real," I told him. "It's yours too. Emily Johnson has locked everything down properly. Your name, your accounts, nothing gets touched by anyone else." "I know," I added. I didn't doubt her. I looked at him properly then. This kid who had been pulled into something without understanding it, who had sat through a family dinner that completely changed how he saw the people closest to him. And still, he wasn't breaking down or running away from it. He was just standing there, trying to understand it all. "Yeah," I said again. "She does her job well. Don't waste that trust." He nodded slowly and kicked a small stone on the driveway. "Is my dad going to be okay?" That question came from the part of him that still loved his father, no matter what had just been revealed. "He's going to have some difficult weeks," I said honestly. "But Christian isn't a bad man. He made a bad decision while trusting someone who made it sound like the right one. That's something that can be fixed, if he's willing to do the work." Nathan nodded again, slower this time. "What about my mom?" I looked at him for a moment before answering. "That," I said carefully, "is above my pay grade." He almost smiled at that, just slightly. He turned back toward the house. The warm light from the kitchen window spilled across the yard. Dorothy's shadow moved calmly inside, still putting things in order like nothing in the world had changed her rhythm. "She's something else," he said quietly. "Grandma D." "She always has been," I said. "We just keep forgetting." I drove back toward Cedar Falls that night with the radio turned low and the highway almost empty. There's a strange kind of quiet satisfaction that comes when you realize things have resolved themselves without violence or shouting. It's not dramatic like in movies. There are no explosions, no big final speeches. It's slower than that. It feels like air finally leaving a tight space. Dorothy Bennett had been underestimated as just a gentle older woman living in a house on Birchwood Lane. People had looked at her and seen something fragile, something easy to work around, something they could quietly control. But she had already prepared. She had already planned. She had a clean cognitive evaluation, a fully secured estate plan, a sharp attorney, and a great-grandson whose future was now protected in ways nobody could undo. And Olivia, all she had now was a lawyer from West Des Moines who was about to make a very unpleasant phone call on Monday morning. Strangely, I almost felt sorry for her, but I didn't. My phone buzzed at 8:22 p.m. while I was stopped at a red light on Highway 30. I looked at it. A message from Dorothy. "Dinner was nice. The rolls came out well. Mom." I stared at it for a moment and then typed back. "You completely destroyed everyone with pot roast and sweet tea. Dad would have loved it." 3 dots appeared, disappeared, then came back again. Then her reply came. "He always did enjoy a good Sunday." I put the phone down and kept driving through the dark road home. And I thought about my father, a quiet man who built something real in his life and left it in the hands of someone he trusted completely. I also thought about how the people who tried to take it all had looked at Dorothy and only seen age, only seen softness, only seen opportunity. They never saw what I had seen for decades. They never really saw her. And that was the only mistake that ever truly mattered. If you liked this story, join our community by hitting that like button and subscribing for more real, raw, and family-centered stories. And as always, thank you for being a part of this sphere.